which now leaves us, well, what's left? Where do we go from here? Where are your biggest targets for you, and where do you think we close this class at? Because that's always been a big question. Do we go for 25? Is it 26, 27? Where do you think it ends for us?
Yeah, so I think all things in a perfect world, you're looking at probably a 26 to 28 person class. Now, that's if you get everybody you want, including guys like Jeremiah Smith, all that good stuff. Now, granted, that's not going to happen. Football is not a perfect world. Recruiting is not a perfect world. They're not going to land everybody that they want at the top of their board. I think you're probably looking at a class closer to 24 to 25 prospects. You're sitting at 21 right now. So you're only talking about 3, 4, maybe 5 more guys. The guys that I think that they're going to prioritize and should prioritize, it's going to be another offensive tackle. I think Jordan Seaton is somebody that's really in play for Florida. I think it's between him and Alabama right now. He's at IMG Academy, so I expect him to show up to a few games in the fall.
Mm.
That's somebody that I think they will work really hard to try and get, somebody I really like.
Cool.
They could go for another running back if they really wanted to go for 2 running backs in this class. They're not going to stop recruiting Jerrick Gibson just because he committed to Texas.
Hmm.
And there are some rumors floating around that he could be moving back to Gainesville for his senior year of high school football. So if that happens, don't be surprised if he shows up on campus for a few games. Florida has and will
Mm.
continue to be his dream school and his school that he loved growing up. If he does happen to move back home, Florida should have a really good shot all the way till the very end there.
Let me
And then, of
interrupt
course,
before you go. Hold on.
yeah, go
Let
ahead.
me go real quick because Jerrick Gibson's an interesting one. He's been back and forth. When we had you on before, it was silent with Jerrick Gibson, right? And it felt like that relationship had died. At the time, we had Chauncey Bowens, right? So we were at a 2 running back standstill. It felt like we were good in that position. Obviously, with Bowens leaving, do you feel that had a reason in the re-engagement with Jerrick, or was that engagement always there? It just maybe if it was a little bit quieter than what it is now due to the lack of Chauncey leaving.
Yeah, so they always continue to recruit Jerry Gibson. He's one of the
Mm.
top running backs in the country. Like I said, a Gainesville kid. So you're never going to stop recruiting a kid because you never know what can happen in the recruiting game. Um, but since Chauncey left, Florida did want to take 2 running backs in this class. So maybe they've turned up the heat a little bit. And we've kind of all known, just general public, that Texas was the school to beat for Jerrick Gibson for probably the last year or so.
Okay.
They've really done a great job recruiting running backs. They went and got Cedric Baxter from the Orlando area last year. They got Jerrick Gibson this year in the class. They recruit running backs really well. And then, of course, NIL plays a factor in how well they do in their recruiting process because they've got a really strong NIL program. Now, with Chauncey moving on to Georgia, Florida having a guy that they really, really like in Kanan Daniels, the thought process was they would stick with just Kanan Daniels, maybe go to the portal for a second running back. That thought process is still kind of on that track. But if they can go get somebody like a Jerrick Gibson late in the process, they're not going to say no to somebody like Jerrick Gibson as opposed to going to maybe a portal guy in this class.